Joining us right now, check it out. It's our friend Bob Dane over at FAIR, the people who are really looking to reform immigration. But, you know, from his perspective, reforming immigration doesn't mean granting work permits and amnesty to millions of people who have broken our immigration laws. Bob, thanks for joining us today.
Morning, guys.
You know, the president's on vacation in Martha's Vineyard. Congress is out campaigning and trying to get reelected. Not talking about immigration very much in the last week. So I guess the whole border crisis and all the issues with these refugee children coming seeking amnesty, it's gone away, right? Not a problem anymore?
Not exactly. Look, yeah, in between vacationing and golfing and fundraising, there are other
and dancing. Don't forget the dancing.
And the dancing.
Yeah.
Look, I think we're looking at Obama getting ready to use more of the executive action, the phone and the pen. He's threatened to do it. He said it'll be large scale. And I think you can certainly expect he'll do it sooner rather than later because he has said that Congress has refused to act, so he has to. But what he won't mention is that the House did pass a border bill, but the Senate rejected it. And I think more importantly, what the president won't mention is an important principle about how the system works, and that is just because the president wants to do something, that doesn't obligate Congress to act. And by the way, conversely, you know, if Congress doesn't do what the president wants, that doesn't create a new right or opportunity for the president to act. It's called the separation of powers. And yeah, they're often at odds with one another. But no, they're not obligated to each other, and that's the check and the balance. It's been working pretty well for a long time, but it's a premise that Obama rejects.
You know, there seems to be a difference in what they say in this administration on the issue of immigration and what they're actually doing. For example, on one hand, when all of this started coming to the forefront and we started reporting on it, they said, "Oh, these people are going to go back. We're gonna process them. We're going to do everything we can to expedite their return." But when you look at their actual actions, it seems that they're doing everything they can to make sure these people are here and they're going to stay here.
Yeah, and that comes down to, for example, criminal aliens. Look, we're not getting what we were promised. You're exactly right, Brian. Over the past few years, the Obama administration made a non-consensual agreement with the American public. He said, we're not going to waste resources on removing illegal aliens whose, quote, only crime is crossing the border illegally. We're going to focus exclusively on the bad guys, the criminal aliens and the national security threats. Now, we didn't agree to that, but nonetheless, it was the new priority for DHS. So now we see criminal aliens being released by the tens of thousands. It's like they're reaching over, grabbing the keys like Otis and leaving the jail. And that begs the question, you know, of the other category of illegal aliens, national security threats. Based on DHS's current performance with criminal aliens, it's pretty hard to have any confidence that they're doing much with the even more dangerous illegal aliens.
Bob Dane is our guest spokesperson for the Federation for American Immigration Reform, or FAIR. And, you know, earlier this week, James O'Keefe, the audacious conservative filmmaker who goes out and his videos just make really, really great points, I think, sometimes. You know, of course, he did the Acorn videos. And he had a video, he dressed like Osama bin Laden, put on an Osama bin Laden mask, and he was videotaped crossing the Rio Grande, you know, completely unmonitored and untouched. It makes a great point, but later in that video, he actually spoke to a sheriff on the border, and they stood right next to where a 4 barbed wire fence just sort of ends abruptly, and there's no protection at all. I mean, this really does hammer home the point that we're being lied to about how the border is unprotected.
Yeah, and it doesn't require a lot of additional money, if perhaps none at all. The only thing broken about our immigration system appears to be the willingness of this administration to enforce the current laws already on the books. Not brain surgery. Let's enforce the laws already on the books, secure the border, enact worksite verification, allow the states to start participating in enforcement, say no to amnesty, no to more foreign guest workers. You got to protect the borders, the rule of law, so that we give the American worker and the taxpayers a fair shake. But that's not the grand plan here.
So where are the Republicans in the House continuing to echo that? It seems to me that setting aside all the other stuff about work permits and amnesty and path to citizenship, if the Republicans stayed on one message, which is we don't discuss anything until the border is secure, that's a winning message. And by the way, it's also good for our country.
It is, and I think a shift is taking place. Look, it's not surprising that a new Gallup poll just last week revealed that immigration is now the nation's top concern. You know, this problem has gone on so long and has reached such a crisis stage that the concerns about cost and impact of illegal immigration and maybe good old-fashioned common sense is being replaced with partisan politics. Why? Because the problem of illegal immigration, you know, we've thought of it as sort of this abstract, it's off in the distance in the other guy's backyard. But now it's tangible. It's in your backyard. So Americans, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, and I'm not talking about the politicians, the deaf politicians, but the voters, both sides of the aisle, I think we're beginning to connect the dots. We see that immigration affects literally every issue, like jobs and wages and health care.
All right, so the president's coming back to town this weekend, some kind of mystery visit. He's been in Martha's Vineyard, and he's coming back to town, and the White House won't say what it is. Do you have any inkling, any instinct that it might be about immigration?
You know, whether we think the question of whether Obama's going to pull the trigger on a large-scale amnesty plan, it depends on whether we believe he's acting on behalf of the far left or the mainstream. I don't see any evidence of a shift to the middle. Best bet is he is going to enact a large-scale unilateral amnesty for 5, 6, 8 million illegal aliens.
And you think that's sooner rather than later?
Best bet, Brian, either now or October. You know, everyone is gone now, and Obama has a history of doing big things late Friday afternoons in the summer.
Well, I know that, but I'm wondering why he would do it before the election. Seems like this is a controversial area in some key states right now that could really swing a couple of elections to the Republicans, because there are a lot of people in some of these key states that are not happy with the immigration situation. Why would he do it before the election?
Well, remember, September, you make a good point. September is off the table because if the president has any hope of getting a budget passed, he'd be wise not to usurp the House and enact amnesty by executive fiat when he needs to ask them for $4 trillion.
All right.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
good point.
I think, frankly, he doesn't care about the 2014 elections at this point. He's thinking about his legacy. He wants the Latino voters to see him as a hero, just like the other groups see him as a hero. That's all he cares about at this point.
Yeah, you're exactly right, because think about it this way. Regardless of what happens in the Senate, he's still going to have a divided Congress.
That's
because
right.
The House is not going to change, so he's not going to get amnesty passed.
In other words, this is his high watermark. Do it while he still has at least the Senate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, listen, Bob, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. Good stuff.